Hey guys, before we start, a quick shout out to Alpha Dog Nutrition for sponsoring this podcast. Alpha Dog products are now available at dusupply.com, and you can use code ALPHADOG15 at checkout for 15% off and a credit for free shipping to try it yourself. Now let's get you to your podcast.
Hey guys, welcome to Interview Stories and Tales, where we talk to Cody King, Benny, Brett, and me, Chris Watson, about how it is to mentor somebody. The good, the bad, when do you know when to quit? You're going to want to listen to this one. Lots of good information.
I don't have anything fancy like that. Chris has this real fancy intro. I got just.
You want me to sing? Go ahead and just sing an intro, or what?
I just put the no, please don't sing.
Here we come to save the day.
Oh, wow. That's not bad. Finish?
I know. Well, I sing to my wife all the time, but she tells me, she just gives me dirty looks. Holy moly, there's 23 people waiting on you.
We were a minute late to push the button. Benny was making fun of me.
We were talking crap.
I was just thinking, if you want to make an intro, you should get AI. I see all these pictures AI generated where the vice president has a big crowd when she gets off the airplane and all that. You could get one that has you doing cartwheels across the mountain.
Never going to live that down.
No, not falling off your horse, just like an acrobatic deal.
I'll see what I can do.
And there comes Brett. Da-da-da-da!
And then I'll put Benny on those little spring horses following you.
Oh.
You know those little rocking horses that have springs on them? He took a picture of himself on.
There's Missy.
Yeah, that's right. That's right outside of.
Missy's here. James
Garland's
Myers,
back.
Little Houndsmen. That's Wayne Bisbee's daughter, I believe. Is that right? Do I got that right?
Who's that?
Hi from Indiana.
Was it Wayne Bisbee that said he had a 14-year-old daughter he'd let me mentor?
Something like that.
Well, it just so happens we're talking about that tonight. To mentor.
To mentor or not to mentor.
When do you pull
first? Let's get it. Chris, did you have hound trials this last weekend or something like that?
I did, and my daughter Avery won a shotgun, a youth shotgun.
No kidding.
Yeah.
20 gauge.
Yep. She can't wait to shoot it.
I'll be dang.
She's 5. I mean, she could have chose the shotgun, or she could have chose the bow and arrow. And she said, "I want the gun." She picked up that gun. She carried it back over here and says, "You got bullets."
I want to shoot something.
She goes, my boys got the little wood gun racks in their room. She said, "I need a gun rack."
There you go.
Yep.
Sounds like my kind of girl.
She says, "If I shoot it, you think I'll fall down?" I said, "Probably." She said, "Oh, okay."
We have a big old bruise on your shoulder.
Yep. I need to load some shotgun shells with just a pinch of shotgun in it.
How did she win it? Just a raffle or?
Yeah, they have raffles. Everybody, Trevor won an iron skillet, so he went straight home last night, made some fried eggs. Perfect, too, little brat. And then
Andy Riggs from Colorado.
What did Lyndon? Lyndon won a bunch of stuff. So I just they had a youth hunt, and then my wife, I put her in the woman draw, and she won like this big purse or this purse thing, a bunch of stuff. And then we got 5 bags of dog food. Hell, that's $150 right there.
Man, sounds like a little hanky-panky might be going on there.
Yeah, smooching.
Little cheating.
Oh, man, I did win quite a bit. But I did put in, like, a lot of tickets, probably 100. So, and then we had member raffles. So if you show up, you get a ticket. Anybody who shows up, like my family, so I put 6 tickets in every time I show up. 7 if Cody Lynn goes. Yeah, we did pretty good this year. There's one year they had a big one lasted 3 hours. We didn't win nothing. That was the last one, and I was a little angry because it's the opening bear season. So me and the people who run it, he's a guide, and I went up to him Sunday morning. I said, "Hey, man," Saturday morning, I said, "This second weekend ain't going to work for me." He says, "Yeah, I know," because he hunts too. So we kind of said, "Nope, no more second weekend in August. I'll do third."
Now tell us about the quotas, what you heard.
Oh, I heard Unit 1 got 13 sows took out of it. I know that's just what someone just told me before I got on. I haven't checked it. And Someone texted me too and said, "Man, all the units were shutting down Wednesday." I said, "Well, yeah, what happened?"
It is they're all shut down. You can't hunt bears in Arizona.
So, no, so like say 3B Unit 1, it's kind of where I'm at. Shuts down Wednesday right now. So if the quota gets took on Friday morning at 5:30 in the morning, 6:30 in the morning. I mean 6. I don't start early. Then it closes the following Wednesday sundown. So when you have 13 sows, if that's true, so don't everybody get all panties in the water or whatever.
Could be rumors, huh? Now Chris is frozen. What's up with that?
Yeah, I don't know. Better him than me. I may take my turn.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, but there you are.
Man, I'm pretty no matter what. So, if they take enough sows, they could shut it down for the year because there is a yearly quota.
Oh.
So, let me tell you a little story. Let me give you guys, it's going to be a segue into my Wednesday show. And it's going to be pretty shit-talking show probably. So, I'll just say anonymous person calls me and says, "Hey, man, I ran this bear, treed 3 times, 4 times. 5th time, something weird happened. Followed the Garmin track to a dead bear. The guy had already skinned it out. Guy said, "Oh, I didn't hear dogs, and this bear just come walking in, and dogs didn't show up till 3 minutes later. Dogs show up 3 minutes later, and you didn't hear dogs?" Little bear, little sow. He posted it on a Facebook page saying, "Sorry, guys, killed the sow." What's funny, he just said it was a 150-pound bear, but I got a picture of it, him standing by it. That might be a 120-pound bear, maybe. Public land, I get it, everybody. I've already, I had somebody, I put on there, I know the story to that bear, and kind of started, and had people message me on Facebook like, "Hey, what's the story?" And I said, "That's exactly the story." I said, Garmin tracks don't usually lie.
No.
And no one was there. Maybe the bear, maybe it was a different bear. We killed a bear one time, archery season. That's the bear I tried to stab because it was killing dogs. And 400 yards later, well, the guy who shot this bear checked it in on Monday. Another guy was at Game and Fish checking his bear, and they kind of, "Hey, where'd you get it? Where'd you get it?" "Here." "Oh, I heard your dog's there." He goes, "I was about 400 yards away from you guys, waiting for a 14 sow's annual year." So if that's true. Oh, he's saying 14 sounds. Probably. So Unit 1 probably won't open the rest of the year, but let me finish my story. I get on 100 stories. So, shoot, I forgot what I was talking about.
You're reading the comments. Sorry, I shouldn't have put them up. ADD. ADD right there.
Oh, man, I'm bad. Squirrel,
2 bears in the same.
Oh, that's what I was going on. A segue. It's public land. I get it, guys. Spot and stalkers, but if the bear's right there, and the funny story about this, guys, he showed up to one of our trees on the same mountain a couple years ago. So, and he wanted this. I didn't shoot a sow. I try to be that ethical guy. I got hounds. I go tree another one. But I'm going to tell you right now, 90% of my comments I've gotten off text and messages, Facebook, Snapchat, and Instagram has been, if you don't, and I just seen one on Arizona bear hunting, if you don't shoot a bear, they're going to shut it down. You're not going to get a chance. And that's what happened. Everybody went out and shot a bear.
So say I want to hunt bears. You got your dogs. I say, "Hey, Chris, come on over here. Let's run some bears over here with your dogs." Mm-hmm. And I got a tag. Is that legal?
Yeah. Oh, in New Mexico?
Is it ethical?
Do you have to have a... So in Arizona, I don't think, as long as someone has a tag with you, you don't need a tag. I don't need a tag in Arizona.
As long as somebody...
I carry one so I can hunt by myself, but I also got a bunch of kids. Man, I that archery hunter last year, I said, if you, come on in. I said, if it's a big bear, I'll let you shoot it unless it's a sow or a little bear. And I try to be ethical. And I had a buddy tell me the only people who care about sows or who whine about shooting sows are the ones who don't. And that's the fact. And the guides don't care. They're going to shoot whatever they can to get that money.
I got to say, I don't know if Bo watches this or not. He's a friend of mine. I went to high school with him. During our little reunion deal up there, I went up there and it was pretty. It was really, really cool. We all sat in a room and they drank beer. I drank what I drink. I think I drank carbonated water and smoked cigars. And he's a big cigar smoker. He has one of those humidors and everything. And he sent me this.
Look at that. 2 backs.
That's $170 thing of cigars.
Yeah. Yeah, there's 25 in that.
I don't even know if I'll light it. It tastes pretty good.
This is 25, 25. So that's what, $8 a cigar.
I
About
don't know. I liked them. I enjoyed it. We had a good time.
most of your decent
So
cigars
thank you,
are
Bo.
$8. So there's my story about the bear. What can you do about it? It's public land. I get it. Spot and stalkers can't put it in a tree and look for it, you know. And I don't know. My it was my dad who was chasing this bear. So it wasn't just a rumor. A guy said, "Well, you know how rumors are." On one of my messages, I said, "Well, it was my dad. I think he probably wanted me to drive up there and fix it. So I'm a little meaner." But I know that this guy, like I said, he came up on us on a tree last year too, or a couple years ago, and kind of wanted to shoot that bear. So I hazed that bear back to the res when I let it go.
So you know the guy.
Not personally, but I've met him out there in the same mountain before. Makes me wonder if he's you know, a legal poacher, someone who likes to listen to them dogs and shoot them bears running. I don't know. That's just my rumor.
Do you get a lot of guys there where you run bears? Do you get a lot of people in there?
Yeah, not necessarily in the areas I run. You know, nobody runs at night. Nobody runs on bait pile. So I'm pretty all by myself. You know,
I heard a guy tell me one time that if you take one of those little fondue sets and you get the vanilla stuff and you just put that fondue down, and I shouldn't be saying this on for everybody to hear, all these cheaters.
Well, we talk about breaking laws, don't mean they're going to go out and murder somebody.
They put them down in the bottom of a canyon, and that the smell of that vanilla fondue or whatever. Oh, Benny just went black.
He said, "Oh shit."
Yeah, bring the law in. Benny's going to disappear. And they said that'll bring those bears into that canyon.
Yeah, propane does the same thing. First
What
thing,
does?
propane.
Really? Propane?
First thing, what does it smell like?
I don't know.
Rotten eggs.
Oh,
It brings a lot of flies in.
Yeah. So
It's
don't leave propane tanks in the back of your truck, or apples, or vanilla extract, or dog food with syrup.
thanks, Troy. You know, I lived there in the mountain I had that place for 10 years and 2.5 years right there. But I never had a bear in my yard, and I treat bears all around the place.
Someone put Benny had to press record. That's why he went black.
He didn't want
I
to
thought
forget
I
what
was
it
the
was.
undercover. Where's Wayne? I thought I was the undercover. I'm the undercover this week. I guess Benny's undercover this week. We're from two different organizations. We're both trying to get Brett.
They're infiltrating my little ring.
How does he really afford those expensive cigars? Gallbladders, maybe? Selling bear gallbladders to the Asians?
You got to know where to go.
Says
Chinatown.
he's not a bear hunter.
Chinatown down there on the other side of Garfield.
There you go. I don't know.
yeah.
You gotta
That's
deal
the
with.
case.
You gotta deal with spot and stalkers, and you know them spot and stalkers. I don't care how good you are. If you're shooting them across the canyon, like I said before, there's a couple guys that could probably guess close on most of them just by their butts or their heads or.
How about
But-
with good optics, though?
I mean, if you know what you're looking for, you know, I got them in a tree at 30 yards. When I walk up, I'm at least 80% right. I'll say 90, but I told you I shot a bear. The guy I was with shot a bear. I told him it was a boar. Blocky head. Oh, that's a boar. I seen balls. I said, that's a boar. Shoot it. Man, he shot that bear and she pissed right out of her butt. I'm like, oh, damn. But she's so fat, curled, and she's sitting on a branch. That old fat roll looked like a set of balls.
Turns
So,
out
but
they
her
were
head was real
boxers.
blocky.
Maybe
What's that?
She was a boxer.
Maybe she identified as a boar.
Oh, and that guy who shot that bear this weekend.
She
if
was
you go back to-
transitioning.
transitioning. If you go back to 23 and look at his post on Arizona Bear Hunter, he has a picture of one of our bears. So in the tree.
I don't know. It even down there by my camp and everything. It's too hot to run bears right now. You kill a good dog.
It was nice this weekend, overcast, got some rain, all that good stuff. So
I might go let those terrorists run some bears. They need to run something.
yeah,
Besides coyotes.
I thought I was going to get to shoot a bear this weekend.
Did you have one come in or something? Or
Not this weekend. Last weekend when I wasn't there, he tore down all my hummingbird feeders. and right in the RV park. And the lady that owns the RV park said that I couldn't come back next year anyway. So what have I got to lose? I already don't like the game warden that's up there. So I said, hey, if that bear comes through here, I don't have any rubber bullets. I'm just going to have to gut shoot it and let it run off. And you should have seen the looks I got.
Yeah. Yep.
I went this last week. I went to some different country. There was a couple things I wanted to look at, and I loaded up, and I didn't want to get there too early, so I loaded up and went in the afternoon. Drove 66 miles down a dirt road. Ended up down there. Well, Benny knows, pretty close to Cordunas, but back on the New Mexico north in the New Mexico side there. And man, it was nice. It was beautiful. I set up camp and sat out there and just, looked at the stars and went to bed. And about 1 o'clock in the morning, the wind started blowing harder than blew my tent halfway apart, blew the fly off of it.
On your truck?
Yeah, my rooftop tent.
Whoa, dang.
It was unbelievable how hard it was blowing. It was terrible. And so then I couldn't sleep. I got up next morning, had my mule hobbled out there, and I sat there and looked at it, and I was going to ride up that mountain because there's some things I wanted to look at. And then I was going to ride around it and go over there. They got the old Butterfield trail, station over there.
Yeah.
I was going to go over there and look at that and share it with the guys who follow my little YouTube channel. And the wind kept blowing. And it blowed 20, 25 miles an hour until about 9:30. And I said, no, that's crazy. So I drove 66 miles on dirt road back out of there. But I'm going to go back. But you can go. Have you ever been through there, Benny, where you go up into there and then you can take off and go up to Pinon and Tiburon and all that country?
Yes, I have.
Is there some pretty good hills in there to hunt?
Yeah, there are. On the Texas side, there's some real good hunting, but all those guys down in that country are real weird. I was even over there when I was welding. I went over there and worked on some wells for Yates Petroleum. I had to go all the way down to the Hueco, Texas. They had a border patrol deal, and then from there, and so I went it's faster but farther than what you did. Because I went all the way down through Carlsbad and off the Guadalupes and down that. And then when I got to the Hueco station, I turned back and went back into New Mexico. It was 25 miles of dirt road.
Yeah, that's the way I should have went out. I seen it on the map. See, I went in from Oro Grande over there.
Yeah, and you took the longest dirt route possible.
Exactly. I went through McGregor Range there and everything, but I want to learn that country anyway. But what about on the New Mexico? Now, I imagine on the Texas side, there's a lot of private land, right? And that's what the guys you said are kind of funny about it.
It's all private. Yeah, it's all private, Brett.
But then on the New Mexico side, there's a BLM everywhere.
Yes. What's the name of that grassland that?
Otero Mesa.
Otero
Mesa.
Yeah, that's where I was. I was up there. Yates drilled 3 wells up there, and I worked on all of those oil wells up on Otero Mesa.
Well, I looked at that country towards where you used to hunt all the time over there by the Guadalupes, and then back a little bit north. Looks like there's some big old nice ridges and some good dry ground hunting that probably gets pretty. They got those goats in there. What are they, Barbary sheep?
Yeah, there's Barbaries in there. You can go over there and hug the Guadalupes and go over there to the Brokoffs, in between the Brokoffs and the Guadalupes, and then go up through Queen and come all the way back down through Carlsbad and Artesia.
I think I'd rather go up through Pinon and back up that way. Wouldn't that be better?
That's a long road, Brett.
But it's all pretty good country, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I'm gonna go exploring it.
Over there around Pinon, a bunch of those ranchers over there are a bunch of weirdos too. They've been there forever, and my niece is married to one of those guys that came out of that country, and it just depends on who you know. And when Jed was my son-in-law, he used to be a government trapper out of Pinon, and he spent about the time he started getting accepted is when he moved over there to Caballo. A real clannish deal over there.
Yeah, I know Jed. Yeah, but it's BLM.
Well, no, yeah, there is, but that doesn't change some. You just have to know how to deal with some of the attitudes. Kind of like when you and I went over there down on the south end of the Gila.
I didn't have any trouble dealing with that attitude, did I?
What do you consider of trouble in you?
He growled a lot that morning.
Benny was real friendly. I knew the guy. I wasn't friendly.
Well, I had never offered to chase him down and beat his ass yet. You had.
He was
Thumped him in
he
the
was
chest,
polite
didn't
to me
he?
too, wasn't he?
He was. Yeah, Brett followed the cattle trucks in there one day hoping to catch up with this guy. He was so mad.
What does Gus say? I won't tolerate rude behavior in a man. Except I'm
Yep.
too old now. I can't.
They ain't gonna take you to jail for smacking a Shirley bartender.
Yeah. A surly rancher.
I got
we worked it out all right.
remember I was telling you about that coffee, everybody drinking my coffee?
Mm-hmm.
I got a bunch of cups in my trailer, so I just kind of hand them out cups, and I got people now that come over where I camp, and they bring that old coffee cup I made them.
I got a whole bunch of them. They're cool.
Yeah. I got a whole bunch I've been just making in my trailer.
Have you ever seen the
And
side
the
of my trailer where I have my water jug?
Yep.
I hung one of those tin cups right there, so you can just go over
Yep.
there and take it off the bungee cord and get you a drink of water. You don't want to look
I-
in that. You don't want to look in that water jug though.
Oh yeah, I love
it's
my
green.
my wife said it tastes. I made her taste something out. She goes, tastes like metal, steel. I said, well, that's what makes it taste good.
That's
I
the
love
flavor.
filling a Dr. Pepper can full of water and drinking water out of a soda can. I don't know why.
I mean,
Maybe I'm just destined for Alzheimer's.
yeah.
They say
Well,
aluminum.
Just drinking Dr. Peppers. All that
Yeah.
sugar is not
Well.
good for you.
I don't. I drink sugar free, so it's just aspartame.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, seizures.
Yeah.
So much healthier.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh well. What else, guys? So what'd you do, Benny? We're talking about what'd you have. I know you're always wheeling and dealing. Every time I talk to you, you got some kind of big deal going on somewhere that you're working on. Is that what happens when you quit hunting lions?
I had to go over to Seminole and get my beef. Those guys put the whoop on my beef, and so I went over there. And then on the way back, I had to stop in Hobbs and look at some stuff. And I went over with a buddy of mine from Artesia, so that took most of the day. And see that heifer that I bought as a yearling was black, and she had a number 21 ear tag. So my wife thought we should call her Blackjack, but then the kids said, hey, the grandkids said it's a girl, so we'll call her Jackie. And so my 4-year-old grandson, Diane told him, hey, they'd come over and they'd help do the chores in the evening. And he said, you got about 4 or 5 days of feeding Black Jackie, and that's all. So, enjoy her while she's here. You know what's going to happen. And the 4-year-old Aiden, he says, cut, and did that. And so we took Aiden with us to the mountains this last weekend, and we took some T-bone steaks off of Black Jackie. And back up. I think my wife asked him, well, did you pet Black Jackie? Did you see Black Jackie when Papa brought her home? And he said, I couldn't see Black Jackie. She's all cut up into all kinds of pieces. So we ate some T-bone steaks Saturday evening up there in the mountains off of Black Jackie. And I told Aiden, I said, hey, this is Black Jackie. Let me know how it worked out, because we spent all that time feeding her. Now she's feeding us. And he rubs his stomach and he says, Black Jackie sure was yum in my tongue.
That's pretty cool.
Yep.
So I don't think he's going to be too soft.
No.
So did you see what me and Chris kind of talked about? What we thought we might have some kind of subject tonight instead of just chasing rabbits all over the place. Did you see what it was about?
I did. I talked about that last week after I got all cranky on the show and used foul words.
Don't worry about it. It's an old man thing. I do the same thing, and I'm not near as old as you are.
So let's just drop right into this deal then. So
Here we go. Here we go, guys.
Be ready.
What set me up was somebody said something about what's that knucklehead's name in Colorado that has those bigger
Wade
staff?
Lemon.
Well, somebody wouldn't sell any dogs unless they were in,
Oh, we
in
were talking about. Mhm.
and I said, then that's what set me off. These guys, they think so. They're so special. They're so royal and righteous, and you don't deserve to have what I have. And every one of those
Oh,
pompous jackass wouldn't have anything if somebody didn't help them. And I threw out, now this will make a lot of people all cringy, but I don't care. I threw out Mike Bency's name. Mike Bency is one of those people. And he's even told you, hasn't he, Brett, cut those pups?
too what? I'm sorry.
You should you should sell any, you shouldn't get rid of any of those pups that are intact.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of guys that think that. I mean,
Well, okay, but I'm just saying this one guy because we both know him, and he would not have anything what he's got if people hadn't helped him. In fact,
Yeah.
given him dogs and pups, and you and I both have contributed to that.
well, I mean, I don't,
I'm not
I don't really, I don't pay that much attention, really. I don't.
I'm not trying to single Mike out. I'm saying this is a situation that I know personally. So
What
Mike
about?
had,
Okay, I'm
go
sorry.
ahead.
Go ahead. Well, I was going to say, well, what about some of these old time guys? How? I know if I, you know, if I would have called Warner Glenn or Steve Smith just out of the blue, and they didn't know me from Adam, so I'd sure like to get a dog
Well,
from you. What would they have? What would they have told
That-
me? I wonder.
That's the question
Either-
right there: is when, why, how, and where.
Yeah.
Either those guys, either they would not entertain you, or they would tell you this is what it'll cost. The old guy never knew any of those old timers, not one that had this attitude where if you get something from me, you got to get it from me and nowhere else. You'll never be able to reproduce it.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I made this cross 3 times, the same cross that your Jazz dog was. Jazz was the last time I made that cross, and Mike had said, he'd like to have one of those pups. So I gave him a male pup. He named him Pistol, and Pistol was a slow goer, and he was a track straddler, and he was just one of those dogs that's not going to run with his head in the air and go like he's on fire. And Mike kept saying, well, he's not pushing hard enough. He's not doing this. He's not doing that. And I said, Mike, you're going to need one of those dogs. And I bet you 20 times I had to talk Mike out of killing that dog. He was going to cap him. And every time I'd get so furious. It's like, well, then just give him back, you idiot. And so the next year,
Watch it. That idiot word will get you in trouble. It got me in trouble.
whatever they so the next year he said, well, I always wanted a girl dog anyway. So the next year I gave him a female pup, the same cross, and he named that dog Jacqueline.
I remember
And
Jacqueline.
Jacqueline was more what he wanted and not as hard-headed and cold trail minded as Pistol was. He sold Pistol at 5 years old or 6 years old for like $12,000
Long time ago.
instead of knocking him in the head. And so then I'm thinking, I read a post that somebody asked him, well, where'd that dog come from, Mike? And Mike's attitude, and this goes hand in hand with that, my dogs are better and you can never have what I have. He said, oh, that came out of my stuff right here in the yard. I raised that dog. And I thought, well, that's a pompous attitude. And so that just goes hand in hand with what I have, you don't get, and you'll never be able to reproduce it. I'm superior to you. And this attitude that's out there, well, how in the hell are we ever going to get along? Because he had help, Brett.
But okay, well, how many people or how many like I know when I called Steve Smith the first time and I talked to him a long time ago, I got the feeling that he had been inundated with lots of phone calls for people wanting dogs. And he didn't know me and then and other people that had called him, he didn't know them either. So I know for the most part those guys all traded dogs between each other. Him, Larry, Clark, Dickerson, yeah, and they all kept good dogs, but they kept them between each other because I would imagine if you don't know who it is, you don't know how they're going to hunt, or like Orville told me, they might just hang the dog on the chain all year and then get him out, and he doesn't do any good. and they say, well, that guy's got bad dogs. One thing about Bensie, he gets a dog, he hunts the water out of it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. Absolutely. And he gave those dogs every chance that they had. All I gave him was some dogs with some proper
Potential.
background, history.
Yeah.
Potential is good. But my whole point is these people with that attitude, they got help.
They all started somewhere.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I got help.
How do you judge if somebody is worth the effort, Benny? How would you? I got a kid down here. I've given him 3 dogs. He's a good kid, and there's nobody. He's another Benzie. There's nobody's going to hunt any harder than him. Kid, but gosh darn, he's trashy. Trashy. Now he's got some greyhounds and he's running coyotes with them, with the hound dogs too.
I just, Brett, me personally, I don't know how until it's too late, till it's over with. And then you got regrets. So do you stop helping people, or do you just wipe your feet from that deal and move on?
So you're more than likely to give them the benefit of the doubt.
Unless I know some history and background on them, that's how I've always operated. But it only takes one time to burn me, and you can pound sand for the rest of your days.
Well,
I got a feeling.
You don't have to give someone a dog right away. You tell them come hunt with you and kind of judge them, evaluate them, not judge them, evaluate them, and see if he's going to stick to it. Because there's plenty of people. I think it worked kind of both ways too. You got mentoring someone, and then you got these people who take advantage of those people who are trying to get into it, and they give them crap dogs. Take this dog because they don't want to deal with it. Now, most of those people who get into it don't realize how much time to get into it. Mike Bensie, if you gave him a crap dog and he goes out and he calls you in 30 days and says, this dog ain't doing nothing. But so you're kind of saying that in a way you mentored Mike Bensie and talked him out of give that dog a chance, basically, and it worked out for him. But Mike would have done that without somebody saying, hey, hold up. So that's the mentoring part. The genetics can be there all day long, like Brett says, but if you give someone a grade A dog, even if you give someone a made dog, I'm talking a finished dog, and they let it sit on the chain for a year, it's going to be a little rusty for a while.
Well, there was another kid. He delivered my welding supplies, and he had bear dogs, and he was one of these guys that went with his butt on fire everywhere he went. He was just hardwired like that. And in fact, we named him Ricochet. His name was Rick, but we called him Ricochet because every time you looked up, he's 2 canyons over there, 5 hillsides over that way, and you never knew where he was going to show up. It was worse when he was horseback because then he didn't get out of breath. So I took Rick with me. I let Rick go hunting with me a lot. I introduced him to lion hunting and lion hounds. And at first he told me, he says, well, what makes your dog so much different to hunt lions than my dogs? And I said, well, my dogs are cold nosed. They got to be cold nosed. He said, well, I got cold nosed dogs. And I said, you hunt bear? He says, well, I got cold nosed dogs. And I thought, well, it's not going to do any good to carry this conversation. It's just, and I call him an idiot. He's not going to work out. But a guy that's never been around a lion dog in the desert doesn't have a clue what a cold nosed dog is. And so when I had that ranch in the Guadalupes, he was with me when we were lion hunting, and my Derek dog, I said, look at Derek. See that? He's starting to wag his tail. He smells something. Well, how come he's not talking? I said, well, just pay attention. Just sit right here and shut up and watch. And we sat there 2 or 3, 4 minutes, and Derek keeps on working and working. And he says, so what's he going to do? I said, just shut up and watch. Relax. And about that time, Derek laid his tongue on a piece of brush, a stick of brush that stuck out in the trail, and sat back and gave one of those long, drawn out, And he said, and Rick says, did you see that? I said, what? You see what he did? I said, yeah, he's finally decided that there's something there. He says, no, he licked that stick. I said, yeah, that's what a cold-nosed dog does. He said, so what just took place? And I said, he could tell there was some scent there. It's all dried up. It's in the pores of that wood. And he laid his tongue on there and moisturized it. And then that scent came back out of there. And he said, I don't have any dogs like that. And so Rick started getting it. And I took Rick hunting all the time, and we went all over. And so when I was getting ready to make my pack a little bigger, I went down to Dickerson's and I took Rick with me. And I even told Rick Dickerson that it would be okay to sell this guy a couple of dogs. So he bought 2 dogs from Dickerson. And I said, but Rick, you need to take care of these dogs. There's something that you've never had the likes of before. And so he couldn't stand it. He wasn't wired to sit still and let a lion dog work. And he took them bear hunting, and they got into some feral pigs up there in the mountain. And one of those dogs, he said, I think the hogs killed that dog, and it was the best of the dogs. And I said, so where is he? Well, he's up there on the mountain. He says, I didn't have time to worry about it. I had to come home. I said, so you didn't have to leave that dog? He says, well, I have things to do. I don't have time to go worry about that dog. And he went back a week and a half later and found the remnants of that dog laying there all slashed up. And so that story is to tell you that I did everything leading up to helping this guy and thought that he would be worth helping. And then he treated those dogs that way. I walked away and wrote him off. To hell with him then. Out of everybody that I've tried to help and people that have come to me for help, the only one that actually did it all the way and saw it through start to finish was Wesley Smith up there at Logan.
And he continues to this day, doesn't he?
Well, no, he finally got rid of all his dogs because when his granddad died, they split the ranches up, and him and his dad have too much country to look after now. So all he has time to do is feed yearlings. I don't know how you invest in somebody and get treated that way. And to me, I don't know until it's too late.
Have you seen a lot of guys? I mean, I have. They get into it for 2 or 3 years, and then, for whatever reason, it's not working out and it gets hard, and then they're out. They're done.
I think what happens, it's just a theory of mine, is just like when you get a puppy. Everybody wants a puppy, and then when you have to really take care of it and train it, it's not so fun no more. And when you run with somebody, I've had plenty of people run with me, and they just got lucky, and I got a bear in 10 minutes. So they think it's easy, but these are dogs I've had for 8 years, 6 years, 5 years, 2 years, 10 years. They know what they're doing, not more than I do. If I had much time as people like Benzie and Warner Glenn, and if anybody had that kind of time, and you have to have the ambition and the time. What do they say? When you have the time, no money. When you have no money, when you have the money, time.
Yeah, it's hard to have both.
Money.
Yeah, it's hard to have both at the same time. And then when you finally do have the money and you have the time, then you're so damn old you don't feel like climbing up the side of that mountain.
So I think people, it's like a romance book. They love the idea of it, but they don't realize the effort and the ambition and the motivation, not just for you and the dogs. And you have to have some sort of knowledge of the dog. So you have to pay attention to your dogs. And I think you make it look so easy when they come with you. Like you go run with Warner Glenn, that guy makes it look like it's easy at 87-year-old to get up and feed everything, jump on a mule, make a big circle and come home, but even 20, 30-year-olds probably couldn't keep up with Warner Glenn.
Yeah, well, it's that riding a mule all day long is like anything else. You got to get in condition to do it. I mean, it's not like everybody thinks. If you haven't rode a lot, most of after a couple of days making 15-mile circles, you're in rough country. You're kind of tired.
I think no matter what it is, coon hunting, hog hunting, deer hunting, bear, lion, I think if someone wants to say to get into dogs, first thing I always tell them is don't. Just find a friend who has them. But if they want to, let them run with you if you're running quite a bit. And you'll know probably that first 3 to 6 months when you call them at 10 o'clock at night and say, let's go. Well, first of all, if you have to call them and ask them to go, they're probably falling out and they're not begging you every day. If they're begging you every day to go and they're wearing you out, they'll probably be a lot better than someone you have to call. And if you call them at 10 and say, hey, let's go run a coon, they say, man, I got to I gotta be, my wife, all the kids, whatever,
Or the guys that are calling you the day before, hey, are we going tomorrow? Where are we going tomorrow? Of course, I've never had. I mean, I don't catch enough really to have anybody knocking my door down to go hunting with me, and especially the way
Cody,
I hunt and where I hunt. It's
Cody
just
has, Cody's right. I didn't catch a bear for a long time or a lion. You hear a lot of stories. People don't catch for 2-3 years. You go out and catch coons all day long, and I see it at the hound trials where a kid was like, "Man, I just can't get my dogs on bear." But man, at the hound trials, he coon hunts at the creek so much, then they know what to do. I said, "You just got to get under it," And he don't have nobody to hunt with, and I said, "Well, come hunt with me." We'll see what they do. I'm nobody. I just know
Cody,
I've caught bear and I've caught lion, I've caught coyotes and elk and deer, so I know what not to do. I know what to do.
I
So
Cody brought up a good point, talking about finished dogs. So everybody that I've tried to mentor to some point, I've told them, first of all, you need to get down to one or two dogs. If they've tried to do it on their own, like all of us started with picking up everything that walked the trails and oh, there's one over here in this neighborhood. It's been there looking for some handout for a month. Well, I'll go get it and go to the pound and find this. And that's how I started out with dogs. And looking back, everybody that told me to do it different was right. And I've told everybody, you need to get rid of all that stuff and go buy, and I'll help you find a good dog. And it's going to cost you a lot of money. And I've asked some of these people, tell me how much, do the math and tell me what you've got invested in that
oh
bunch
man,
of hot liquors that you've got out there right now. And one guy did the math and he said, well, I've got about $12,000. And I said, can you get your money back? He said, yeah, probably. Why? I said, get your money back and I'll get you a good dog. Well, what good is that going to do me? Because then I'll help you get some young dogs and some pups, and you got a dog that knows what's going on, and that dog will teach you and it'll teach those other dogs. And Wesley Smith is the only one that did that. And Wesley Smith was highly successful.
yeah. That the first time I really went lion hunting. I mean, I pretended there for many years, but
Sure.
then the dog Benny Maze came from Rick Dickerson, little black dog.
I know what you're talking about.
But a friend of mine, Greg Ball, he came by and visited me the other day. I haven't talked to him in years. He was a lion hunter, and he was hunting lions. And we got a call on a ranch, or he got a call on a ranch, and they had a fresh lion track up there. And he called me and said, "Hey, you want to go with me?" I said, "You bet." And that day absolutely ruined me. I went up there, and we were down there in the bottom of the creek bottom, and I remember me and a buddy, I said, "Oh, that lion went," I was trying to be smart. I said, "Oh, that lion went this way." They were trying to figure out where it went. Well, the lion didn't go the way I said it went. But anyway, that Maze dog started trailing up the side of that mountain. And we went with her for a little while. And of course, this is a long time ago. I was a lot younger, a lot better shape. And I went with her, and Greg went back to get his tracking box. And his back in the day, that tracking box was like carrying a banana crate. And I stayed with that dog, and I watched that dog. Like you said, that dog would lick rocks and do whatever it took and just bawl. And I stayed with that dog for over an hour and a half, just me and that dog going across through there. And I remember thinking, this is the funnest thing I've ever done in my life, watching that dog. And then we caught the lion too. And it ruined me. And I bet I didn't catch another lion for 8 years.
but you kept going out, didn't you?
Oh, I still to this day, just talking about that, it gives me chill bumps all over. Just, it's amazing to me to watch those dogs work.
You see this comment from James Sinclair? I tell people it's a lifestyle, not a hobby. If you're not willing to give the dogs your all, don't get into it. And
That's exactly right.
I miss sheep hunting, and I miss deer hunting, and I miss oryx hunting, and I miss elk hunting. And I just told my wife this week, maybe since I don't have dogs, I should start doing that again. But when I had my hounds, I did not have time to hunt anything else on this planet.
And what's more than that? I don't care about hunting anything else. I mean, I can appreciate a big old mature buck, and I've taken my grandson, got him a muzzleloader buck. I didn't take my nephew. I showed him where to go, and he shot a nice buck with his bow. And I mean, in elk, these guys talk about every time I went elk hunting, I drew an elk tag. I was out there just looking for a lion track all the time. It really doesn't. And I know that's most people are hunters. They're hunters. They want to hunt everything. And I caught some bears, not a whole lot, but I caught bears. And I never will forget Larry Hendricks telling me that when we were sitting there at that picnic deal. And I was sitting there talking to Larry, and this has been, Benny, probably 12 years ago, something like that.
Maybe longer.
Maybe longer than that, 16 years ago. I don't know. It was a long time ago. And I was sitting there talking to Larry. And I said, well, I let my dogs run bears too sometimes. And he looked at me and he said, tell me something. He said, when you see that bear in that tree, do you get that same feeling that you get if there's a lion in the tree? And I thought about it, and I thought, no, I don't. I don't. There's just something about that big cat that I don't know what it is. Something primal. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I just know that when I went hunting and I went hunting and I went hunting and I went hunting and we never got anywhere, and I fell in love with the dogs, with the hounds. And so then just to catch a lion with those hounds, that was like the ultimate test for me. And I wasn't willing to give up. The reason I've been married forever and I've got mules is I'm pretty dang dense. That's just the way it is. Well, you got to be just as stubborn as everything around you if you're going to come out on top. And so I have a great appreciation for all kind of working dogs, no matter what they're working. But I really thrive on watching a hound and a pack of hounds beat out a track that I can't see.
Yep. Yes, sir. I agree. What about, how many kids that or it doesn't have to be kids, guys that you would help? Is there any way to read that to see if they have that, that same deal?
I think you'll know.
Looking back, and you ask that, Brett, the only one that I spent any time around that had that quivering, tensed up, frothing at the mouth kind of attitude was Wesley.
Yeah.
He was related by marriage to a guy that welded for me, and I gave Joby my phone. I went to Arizona for something, and we had 6 welders in the field. We were running 24/7. We were busy. And so when I left town, I said, here, Joby, you handle the calls for me. I got to go. And when I got back, he told me that Wesley Smith had called and wanted me to call him. Really? I said, okay, what's up? He says, well, he's got a bunch of hounds and he needs some help. I didn't have any idea that Wesley was interested in hounds. So I called him, and he told me, he says, well, I've got all these dogs and I'm not getting anywhere and this and that and the other. And I said, well, what on earth is the matter with you, Wesley? What made you get all those dogs? He said, when you came up here hunting, I love watching those dogs. And then when your dogs caught that lion, he said, I can't get that out of my blood. Yep. That lion, the dogs caught that lion on the ground, and she had one of my dogs by the side of the head, and I gave my pistol to somebody standing there. Here, hold this. I'm going to stomp that lion. And I waded into the fracas, and I was getting ready to stomp that lion in the throat. And all the dogs jumped on the lion and made her turn loose, and there I was. And Wesley was right. I didn't realize he was right here. He was like almost rubbing my back. He's way tall, so he was looking over my shoulder. He had to be right in the thick of it. And I just dang near run him over when I went running backwards like a crawfish to get away from that lion. And I didn't realize at that point what that had done to Wesley.
I was going to say, he probably looking over you because I've seen you before. It's a lot easier than trying to look around you.
5 by 5. It's like meth. It's that high. When you walk into a tree, I don't care who you are, when you walk into that tree, and I've been doing it a while, and I probably imagine people who've been doing it for 30, 40 years, when you walk into that tree, you still get just as excited as the first time you walked into a tree. And that's how people get hooked real bad, is walking in that tree. And I tell anybody, you ever been at a tree, and just to see that animal that's 90% of this country don't get to see at 30 feet, 20 feet, 10 yards. It's just amazing to them.
It is amazing.
It's amazing to me. Every time I walk into a tree, I don't care if it's a 80-pound cub. I'm still excited about it. Like so.
Yeah, it's. I wonder. I wonder with the internet and the instant gratification that people have now. I mean, they can just get online and watch things, and it, not necessarily, I mean, anything, just the shorts, I guess, on YouTube and on the reels or whatever on Facebook. And I get caught up in that too, sitting there, but I wonder what it's going to do to the younger generation if they go for 10 days or 15, 20 days, or like Mike Root, he's a good lion hunter as anybody, and he had a hunter come out and hunted 90 days with him, and not straight, but came, 10 days at a time, never caught a lion. And I wonder how many kids could go through that long and not catch anything and still be interested.
You know what I believe ruined a little bit too? Another Chris Watson theory, so all you haters, here we go, is paying somebody even if you don't catch something. Because in the old days, you hear Ed Vance and all them guys in their books, they didn't get paid unless they caught something. So when everybody hates on those canned hunts and everybody hates on all that cheating stuff, you did not get paid. Now these guys are charging $9,000 to go out and no guarantee,
Yeah.
I had a guide license for a while in New Mexico when I had good dogs. The problem was I couldn't find a good outfitter to work for. The outfitters tried to tell me how it was going to go. And I'd just look at them and I'd laugh. And I'd say, do you have dogs that can catch lions without snow? Well, no. Well, then why don't you quit dictating to me? And most of the time they would call me, hey, we understand that you have dogs that can do this and that. Yeah, that's true. And you got a guide license. That's right. Well, would you take some hunters? Well, let's talk about this deal. And not one single time, because it doesn't take very much money to find out what somebody's made of. And they thought they could just pay me every day guide wages like I was going to go out there and take them on a 2-day antelope hunt. They could pound sand.
Well,
Jared Fisher said, I still throw up at every tree. Let me tell you why Jared Fisher throws up at every tree.
Is he running? Is he running with the dogs?
That son of a bitch runs with the dogs. He don't stop. He don't drink water. His hydration is why we wait. Hydrate, because at the end of the day he drinks a beer. That's his reward. That guy goes. He would smoke my mule out there.
But I think that the kids today, you talked about it, Brett, the instant gratification. And they've got to produce. It's a very few people. It's a rare person today. Let's just say it's a rare person under 40 years old. Let's go back to 30 years old. That makes it really easy. Anybody under 30 years old, it's rare to find somebody that has the patience to produce lions in the dirt.
Well, yeah, I think that's and I bet there's a lot more of those dogs from up north that run snow, that if you exposed them to the dirt, now Benny might get mad at me for this, but I bet that they kept trying, the good dogs, imagine they would learn how to. I bet that's more the handler than good dogs. Does that make sense?
How many times?
Acclimation.
How many times have you seen a dog get under a tree that hasn't treed nothing and the light switch kicks on? Because they got to see game. So if you're hunting snow and you're catching, and you start drying them out, is what we'll call it. When you start taking them on bare land, and you start getting into that dry land, I mean, they know what the game is. They know what the smell is. Now they got to dilute the smell and work harder. So if you got a good dog, I imagine they'll dry up a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all about acclimation. And, the dogs that have that kind of mentality, they can learn anywhere. but you've got to spend the time to get them to do it.
I got a dog out here right now that I tried. Cody sent him to me. Said, "Hey," said, "you need to try this dog. He said there was a guy in Mexico has a full sister to him and he said the guy in Mexico would buy this dog from me because he liked her so well. And he's out of some northern Colorado blue ticks and then out of Cody's stuff. And I tell you what, now that dog is if I could show him 5 or 6 more lions, I know he would be a $10,000-$15,000 lion hound. I mean, he's as cold as anything I got. He handles like a dream. He's
What
he's
does
just
that
a
boil
nice
down to?
dog. He's just a nice dog.
What does that boil down to, though? Also, we're talking about genetics. We're talking about somebody's drive. You're in an area where you're lucky to see a lion in a year. So if you want to perfect your dogs and you want to be that ambitious about it, motivated, you probably should be in an area where there's a lot more lions and where you can run them.
Exactly. Go ahead.
I don't know. I just don't know that I agree with that 100% because it doesn't, how do I say, you will make a better, harder trying dog.
Yeah.
Hunt 20 days in a row and they get to trail. It doesn't matter how old the track is or how fresh the track is, as long as they get to trail and grind one out. If you hunt for 19 days in a row and never catch a lion, in the 20th day those dogs see a lion, it's going to change those dogs' mentality as well, Chris.
It surely does. It surely does.
Yeah. So you don't think getting them on a little bit of game is going to help them work harder?
Well, it depends. You can make it too easy for them.
Yeah.
I keep my dogs, I call it trashy. I keep them a little trashy. And now this is trashy, they stick their head up and take off. No, I correct them. That's not a lion track. And, but they'll I was talking to Breck Bean, matter of fact, he's one of the ones who, they sold that high selling dog at that last sale. And, he was talking about cold trailing coyotes. And that's something I realized that I do a lot of that. And they'll cold trail a coyote. And a lot of times, unless you're not real sharp on where that thing's going, you'll think you're trailing a lion. And foxes are the worst because then a fox even travels where a lion travels. So it kind of makes it tough. But I keep mine, it doesn't hurt my feelings. I mean, I'm not like one of these guys that's, oh, my God, I don't want to let these dogs do this and do that. Of course, I'm not guiding hunters either. But, I'll let them trail until I figure out it's wrong or something's not right. Usually they don't trail them very far in this country. But I keep all my dogs trailing. And I won't keep a dog that won't trail. I get
it, like Louisiana hunting's right too. Too much game. If you do make it too easy, they're going to expect to go out there, get out of the truck, go 100 yards, treat something. So they're going to go out. And I've seen this before when I caught a lot of bears. They rig, they go out. Some of the dogs look in the trees. A bear dog will look in the trees if you catch a lot of bears. So when you watch people's dogs and they're looking in trees, you can tell the dogs that you're going to have their nose to the ground. They don't care about where it is. They care about going to the tree on the ground. And some dogs kind of cheat. And they look up. They smell a bear and they look up. I've seen that before in my dogs.
Really?
Especially your young dogs.
See, I don't think my dogs are, because I haven't caught that much. I don't think they're as tree-minded as a lot of people's dogs are.
They're trail-minded.
They're trail-minded, exactly.
Mm-hmm. But they get praise for it.
But we get in there, and I'll say, and they'll start a track, and and you sit there and you watch, and after years and years of doing it now, you sit there and you watch them, and they're whipping those tails. Finally, like Benny said a minute ago, you get that one dog goes up there and he smells in a spot, and he opens up, and then the other dogs go there, and they start trying, and you get where you can kind of tell what's going on, and then they trail for a little ways, and they don't go any further. And then you kind of see where it's traveling. And, in a lot of this country, you can't ever find a track and everything. But my dogs, I can sit there and I can holler at them. And I can say, hey, guys, that's a bunch of crap. Let's go. And I move them on, Now, if it's a good lion track, I can't do that. I can't call them like that. They're just going to stay there and keep after it. And that's kind of the only way I can read them. Because, who was it that told me that? I think it was Terrell Shelley. Somebody told me. Said, man, I said, how do I know? What do I know? He said, you got to learn how to read those dogs. You just got to learn how to read those dogs. And like, I think it's Cody that said that as well as anybody. You got to learn how to talk dog or listen or, understand dog talk, and you know what's going
Yeah.
on. And I still
You
have a
speak.
hard time. I know I
Well,
can't tell a fox. I know I can't.
well, you talked
So
about Clump, how he watched them dogs, and
Told me those dogs are just lollygagging. I said, well, they're barking on a track. He said, they're just
okay,
lollygagging. I said, all right.
so you're trying to mentor somebody, and you're trying to invest in the next generation and the future. How do you teach the next person in that you're spending time with? How do you teach that person to be a part of the pack and to read everything that's taking place?
I don't think you could teach it.
It's
I
not,
think you can
yeah.
tell them. I think you can give them your advice, but I think if someone's wants to do it or someone has it in them, I think you're going to see that. I think they're going to outperform you, and you're going to be a little jealous about it. Like, damn, he's right.
Cody,
I think if you
sorry, Chris. Cody, do you
no, go
still
ahead.
have a link? If you got a link, come on. I want you to explain yourself a little bit. I disagree with Benny on that little bit. Yes, you can make it too easy on them, but trailing is not enough. You don't trail to a tree.
Yeah,
I don't quite understand.
I need Cody King on here. If
Yeah.
Cody King's on here and Benny disagrees with me, I don't need these no more. I got him on just for Benny. He has his spear, but I'm good. I'm going to defend myself, Benny. I'm telling you right now. I don't keep following. Oh, damn it! Don't bring brass knuckles to a gunfight. Is that what he's trying
That's
to
what
say?
I'm saying. Benny with his spear. I decided I better get armed.
And I think you have to be kind of a special person to read that person. So because there's a lot of people out there that are mentoring, and there's a lot of people that don't agree with what we're saying because they think we're wrong. But watching them mentor somebody might not be so right either. Everybody
Well, I
has
think
their own way. So who's to say we're talking about people that we mentor, but what about the mentor himself?
Cody's crippled,
Oh,
He thought he was Superman, jumped off a roof.
On my 40th birthday, I learned that 40 is when you should no longer drop off roofs.
catches
Let
up
me
to
go
you.
inside, get out of the wind. Yeah. What are y'all
Hey,
up to, guys?
Oh,
he's just gonna show off those kennels is what he's doing right now.
we're
Nah, I
philo- we're
came inside the house.
we're philosophizing on lion hunting and dogs and houndsmen and explain yourself. I didn't quite understand it. Are you saying that trailing's not enough? You got to get them in that tree and you got to get them to chew on fur. Is that your?
Or at least
I
see it.
guess I think that Benny made a comment that said it can be too easy on them, and it's funny that he mentioned that because when I first started hunting, I was hunting with Reuben twice a week, sometimes three times a week, and we caught a lot of cats, a lot. Reuben had the best dogs that I've ever seen, but that didn't translate over to my dogs being trained as well as his. And it was just too easy for him. Reuben had dogs that were so good. My dogs just weren't having the opportunity to do much.
They were just tagging along.
Yeah, yeah. Reuben had, at that time, holy smokes. Nothing else stood a chance. Nothing had a chance to do anything. It was just caught. And so I agree with Benny that, yeah, it can definitely be too easy. But shut up and listen to the dogs, boy. That's exactly right. Reuben would tell me that, and he would get mad at me and tell me, you got to be smarter than effing dog, Cody.
Well, so those dogs that were just lollygagging with his dogs, you were kind of doing the same to Reuben.
Exactly. And that's why Reuben used to make, man, we would hunt and hunt and hunt. And then one day out of the blue, Reuben would turn and look at me and say, don't come hunting with me again until you've hunted 3 times by yourself. And he would make me go and I caught a lot of cats with Reuben, but it was a long time before I could catch cats by myself. You know.
So what was the problem? Your dogs or you?
Yes.
Well, I mean, a little bit of everything. A lot of it was my dogs, and and Ruben knew that. Ruben knew that they weren't gonna. I don't. Am I freezing up? There we
Yeah,
go.
that's all right. We can
It's all
hear
Ruben
right.
you.
knew
We
that
can
they
hear
weren't
you.
gonna get. Ruben knew they weren't gonna get better unless I hunted by myself some. And
Okay.
but to go back to what Benny said, and I think he said something along the lines of, of uh, as long as you're going out and you're trailing game, uh, that they're doing good. But and y'all were discussing it in reference to Chris giving Brett hell for not hunting in better country, I think. Uh, but yeah, I mean, I think that is good for the dogs as long as you're trailing cats. That's fine. But I think that if you're not careful, dogs can be content to trail.
Yeah.
I think dogs can I think it's very easy for dogs to think that, oh, we're going to go load up in the truck and go drive around in circles today, and we're going to get to run around and play, and then we're going to come home, and so I think
Yeah.
they got to be on enough game to be able to learn that when the time does come that they need to go, it's time to go catch that cat. I think you got to put that into them. But where is that? I mean, with one dog, it's one cat, and with another dog, it's
Yeah.
50.
Well, and that one,
So
and that one, and when I caught that lion down south down here, I don't know, a year ago, he was a nice Tom. I hadn't caught a lion in a long time, and I got to thinking, just like you said, these dogs are just content to trail. They're just content to trail. And then that
Brett,
day we cold trail. What's that?
well, we talked about bringing snow hunters and drying them up, but if you took your dry ass dogs and put them in some moist and wet them down, would they move faster? Would it be too much?
I don't know, because this lion was just a hot lion track, and they still started it cold. I mean, they still started it cold and trailed it cold, and then but they trailed it far enough, and where it was going, it's like Cody said, I mean, and I just knew. I said, well, that's a lion. I never seen a track. Biggest problem I have is I go backwards often, and but I just knew they were going, and it kept getting a little better and a little better, and pretty soon, I mean, it was just. I had 8 dogs out there, and I had 8 dogs bawling and rolling. I mean, rolling. I was having to whip old Agnes to get down through there, and they caught that lion in the cave. And I've told this story probably because I'm real proud of this story. Is I went back the next morning. I mean, and I started
cool.
I started those dogs right where that lion left that cave, and that lion left that cave. I was going to kill that lion, but I wasn't going to kill him in that cave. I was going to shoot him when he came out. So I called the dogs out, and it got real hot that day. And they all laid up underneath some trees. And I sat there over the top of that cave waiting for that lion to come out. And that's when I had made a rookie mistake. I got a little excited, and I had one in the chamber. And I tried to chamber another one. I jammed my gun. And he went out. I watched him, and I noted the time and everything. And I went back the very next morning, and I started those dogs right there at that spot. And they cold trailed that lion all the way up that canyon. So that was probably, what was that? Probably a 16-hour-old track, 14-hour-old
16 hours. You called me and said they're doing a 16-hour track right now.
16-hour-old track, and they're trailing him, cold trailing him now. And those young dogs that I had there that were all on that lion the day before, some of them weren't helping at all on that cold track. Just Booger and P and those older dogs, they were the ones that were working that cold track. And they trailed all the way up that canyon. And in my mind, I don't have proof of this, but in my mind, they trailed to where that lion had left that cave and gone up the canyon and bedded down in the middle of the day. Because he left that cave in the middle of the day. You're not going to be wandering around those hills in the middle of the day in that heat. So he went up the canyon, I don't know, maybe a mile or so, something like that. I don't know. But they cold trailed to where I figured he spent that night. And then when they got excited on that track, I figured it was an overnight track. Then those young dogs started helping. And I got that real young dog that, she's not really that young, but she's young for me. She hadn't been on any lions. She's the one who went out and got that lion jump. The other dogs trailed to it, but she's real silent. And she went across the canyon, jumped that lion, and we caught that sucker again. But it was real eye-opening to me to see that, and then realize that a lot of times we might be trailing a lot older track than I realized.
It was warm too, right, Brett?
It was hot. Yeah, the weather was hot. Yeah, it was, t-shirt.
Res Hounds asked how hot it was, but I think it was up there like 70s, 80s.
Yeah, it was real hot. And it got the time we got that lion caught again, it was hot. And that's when I got sick. That was when I got sick. That was when I had to go to the hospital and stuff. So
we keep talking about people, but you think them dogs said, "Damn, we caught this lion for him, and that idiot missed."
No, they were all laid up underneath the tree. That cave was kind of. I don't like cave holes anyway, and I got in that cave hole with that lion, his ears backed and everything, and I could have, I could have just stuck my gun around the corner and killed him right there. But I thought, no, the dogs were all there. They knew I was there. They were, and those dogs, you know how they get when you're there with them. They get really, really tough. I mean, they think they got the boss here. We're going to show off. And Richard
Burnett said, "Don't run a track that you don't stand a chance to catch." And I'm gonna tell you what.
Oh no, I don't believe that, buddy.
I know. I'm gonna tell you what. If you think you can't catch it, and you tell a houndsman you can't catch it, he'll go as far as he can.
That makes me want to catch it.
Yeah.
Well, look at that dog he's got right there.
Here's a
he runs catch dogs. That's what he's wanting.
Now I will say that there is some truth to that. As far as if you were riding around and you found a track that you knew was 3 days old, and that goes back to my bobcat hunter. When all of you lion hunters talk about, oh, we trailed a 2-day-old track, why in the hell would you want to? Is always my first thought. But
get out of there.
To go back to something Chris said earlier, and I'll be curious to see if Benny has ever heard this before, but I have sent over the years several dogs to Tyvek out in West Texas, and a lot of his country is very similar to Brett's.
Yeah.
Some of it's pretty not as crappy and dry as Brett's, but some of it is. But they're undoubtedly, without a doubt, 100%. If I send a dog to Tyvek for 6 months or more and I get it back, it trails better. It's a much better dog than it was when it left here. When it goes from those crappy, terrible desert conditions, spends 6 months there, and then comes back to some pretty good conditions.
Is
tuned up
it
his
because
nose.
he's catching lions?
No.
It's because he's like me. He's letting them trail foxes and coyotes and everything else.
It has something to do. Some of them he put no cats on, none. It just has something to do with the conditions and getting acclimated out there and then coming back to here, and they have like a super nose. I don't know what it is, but I'd be curious if Benny's heard that before.
Benny?
I think it's a combination of things. It's conditioning and acclimation. So when they get into tougher conditions, and, tougher conditions everybody has different standards. And let me go back and say, when I said that the deal that Cody said he disagreed with, and I think there's a fine line there. Your dogs have to know the game they're after, and they have to be willing, have to have the drive to catch it. And my comment that to go out there and trail something for 19 days before they put something up, I think that's part of that conditioning that you're seeing.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure.
And so they're there, and they're still trying, even though they're not seeing the game in front of them. And then when they go back to your place where there's a little bit more moisture, then it's hell on wheels, boys. Let's go.
Yeah.
Well, here's another question. do you think putting them with other dogs causes a tad bit of competition?
Competition. I know
Yeah, but
I know it'll cause them to trash.
You know, like when
That's
you
I know it.
send someone to a UFC school and they come back and they want to fight everybody because they know how to fight now, you know, or they want to spar. And you think dogs get around other dogs and they have that little bit of competition and maybe it hypes them up, just like right now. The guy just said, Wayne Bisbee, this cold trailing ability is. Oh wait, no, go up. What did he say? He said, "You guys talking about trailing gets me excited to get a dog." Because he's getting all pumped up about it. You know, do those dogs maybe just a different environment, like like their psychology part of it?
I
They're like,
know, I know that they have. I know that there's competition amongst dogs, and
mm-hmm.
I know that there's competition amongst individual dogs too. And I know that for a fact. I don't care what anybody says.
I agree.
And I
you're right.
mean, Ruben's when I first started hunting with Ruben, Ruben had very good dogs, but he had two dogs. One of them name was Doc, and one of them name was Benny.
Benny.
And they were,
I bet he was a mean sucker.
I mean, I bet you he was a
yeah.
grouchy, growly son of a bitch.
Had to watch him at the tree.
and every year that son of a gun was going to run a coyote too.
Mm-hmm.
But them two dogs. I mean, if Doc started it, Benny never barked, and if
Oh, he
Benny
did.
started it, Doc never barked.
So it was a competition. They wouldn't honor each other.
They were they were pissed off. They'd go, but I mean, it was very obvious that they weren't working the same. You know, you would. I mean, and it was. I mean, this was hundreds and hundreds of cats. Doc would start it, and then Doc would be trailing it. Benny would be there, but then Benny wouldn't do much. And then if Benny started it, Benny'd trail it all the way up. And I mean, and that I seen it hundreds of times with those two dogs. I mean, it was comical. It really was.
Yeah.
How
I
about
like that,
mixing?
Marty. I
Go ahead.
like that comment Marty Beard just put in, or you put up, Brett.
Well, Marty and I have been talking for quite a few years now. He's a heck of a houndsman. Does a lot of.
That's what I
He's
tell
in
my
good
kids.
country too. He's in really good country, and it's
You know that's what I tell my kids. Shut up and do what I tell you, and then if you disagree with it, tell me afterwards. But do what I'm telling you right now, and if you have a better way, let me know. You know, if you think it's wrong, let me know. And that's most people. Now, I'm going to open up a can of worms. You might want to say what you're going to say first, but I got even a better. Yeah, it's going to be that bad. So, you know, we keep talking about the mentors, but we all know hounds guys. And is it like a doctor? Should the guy you're trying to mentor, should he go run with someone else? Because you know how hound guys are. You find out that kid went and ran with someone else, you're going to be a little bit butthurt.
They get pissed off.
Why would you go run with him? I'm telling you what to do, but wouldn't it be kind of smart to get a second opinion?
Reuben Lossman and Clifton Lyles hunted for about 10 years. Every time they hunted together. And when I started hunting one August morning when it was hot, me and Reuben went hunting one morning without Clifton, and that was it. They never hunted again. Never hunted a day again because Reuben went with that dumbass kid instead of him. You know, hound hunters can be a hound hunter's worst enemy. Let me tell you.
What do we talk? Me and Brett talk about it all the time. That hound hunters are whiny babies.
Oh, we all are.
Babies. I found out a guy.
Guys, I got to step out for a minute. If for some reason we get disconnected like last time, hang around. I'll turn it back on.
You know, and I got a little butt hurt. So I was kind of like,
young guys hunt with everybody, anybody you can. You know,
you should get a second, third opinion, and
you
the way they
somebody
do it
click
might
with.
be better. You know,
I think,
and it's not saying they're a better hunter, but it may be a better person for teaching you. You know,
absolutely.
Yeah. I think you can learn from anybody, and I don't care who you are. You know, I got nothing to offer Larry Hendricks. I was at Larry Hendricks' house one day in the summer, and he said, "I got a question for you." And he told me this scenario. Have you ever seen this? No. Well, I was hoping you could help me, he said. And I looked at him and I said, Hendricks, how in the hell can I help you? You've hunted 10 million more hours than I have, 200 more months. And he said, yeah, but we see things differently, and we all have different experiences.
Let Let me tell you a story about a truck pulling a loader got stuck under an underbridge on a pass, a overpass, and there was 10 engineers trying to figure out how to get this truck or this tractor from being stuck on an overpass. And one of the engineers had his 10-year-old kid with him. And that kid came out, walked up to his guys and said, "Why don't you just let the air out of the tires?" And they all looked at each
Yep.
other stupid because they overthought it. And I think even if you're taking a 15-year-old kid and that kid looks over and says, "Why'd you do that? Why don't you do it?" I think you can learn. You can learn even off somebody who don't know, because they see it way different than you see it, because what you do every day is a habit.
Yeah.
And they may have that one stupid question that he thinks is stupid, like you're like, "I don't have nothing to offer," that you may say, "Well, what about this?" And they say, "You know what? I never thought about that."
Well, and you know that they call it the Dunning-Kruger effect too. You know that when you know nothing about something and then you start doing it and then you learn just enough about it to think that you know what you're doing, but you really don't.
Yeah.
And
You could
and
become a 15-year-old kid at home.
yeah, and I was bad about that. I mean, I hunted for 5 years and I thought I knew everything there was to know about hounds. And and then as time passed, I realized I didn't know nothing. I was just a dumbass, and still am in many ways. It anybody walks up to you and claims they know everything about hounds and hound hunting, you
Go
you,
the other
you,
way.
you you know you're wasting your time
Yep.
immediately. Yeah.
Hey guys, this ended up being a pretty long podcast. We are going to have a part 2 to it where we finish up talking about how to make a houndsman. When do you know when it's the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do? So stay tuned to WU Podcast and listen for us for our part 2. If you want to watch this live, go to YouTube's Interview Stories and Tales channel and check us out.